Okay guys, this is a video that's going to help you with problem 3.1.5, how to graph it. And you're going to skip 41, we're not playing the silent board game today. I'll probably play that with you later, but not today. And then you're going to go on to number 42. And number 42 says this: Mr. Wallace needs your help. He is planning to take his new girlfriend out to dinner and wants to be prepared to give a tip at the end of the meal. He knows that with any miscalculation, he may leave too little or too much, which might change your view on him and jeopardize the relationship. Therefore, he would like to create a tip table that would help him determine how much tip to leave. Okay, so that's the problem. He's going out on the date. He doesn't want to seem too cheap, but he doesn't want to seem too extravagant either. So he's trying to leave a tip that's the proper amount so he doesn't look bad in front of his new girlfriend that he's trying to impress. So we're going to go on to number 42A, and what it says: create a table like the one shown below where there are reasonable value, or create a table like the one shown below. What are reasonable values of x? Mr. Wallace needs a tip table so he can quickly determine a tip for a bill that may occur after a nice dinner for two. We're not going to discuss with anybody, but what I want you to do is choose 8 values for x. And what I would probably do is maybe, try 5, 10, anything less than $100. Maybe you want to go up by 20s. Maybe you want to have one for $1. Maybe you want to have one in there for $5. So in case the bill is $66, you can add 3 20s, a 5, and a 1 if that makes sense, and then add up that tip. So go ahead and try and create that table. That's what you're going to do for A. Then for B, Mr. Wallace is planning on leaving a 15% tip. That means for a $10 bill he leaves $1.50. Determine the tip for all the values in the table from part A. This is Mr. Wallace's tip table. So the first part you're going to do is put different values in for the dollar amount. So you'll put in for this one, this one, this one. You'll have it maybe numbers between up to 100 are good. And then below, what you're going to do is you're going to put the tip value for the different values that you put up above. So if he leaves $10, for instance, you put $15 tip and so forth. That's what you're doing for 1A and 1B. Okay? Or let me say that again, 42A and 42B. When you get to 42C, use this tip table to quickly estimate the tip if the bill is $36. What if the bill is $52.48? So that's why it's kind of nice maybe to have a $10 tip, a $20 tip, a $5 tip, a $1 tip. So you can quickly add up all those, and try and figure that out. So 36 might be 10, 20, 5, and 1. So you're able to quickly determine that. Letter D. Mr. Wallace is worried he may not be able to quickly estimate his tip table for unusual amounts such as $52.48. He would like a graph that would help him determine a 15% for all possible dollar amounts between $10 and $100. So what you have to do is you have to set up an axis. Guys, I want you to make this to be a neat graph. I don't want you I want you to make it neat. I want you to put all the values in there, label the axes and that sort of thing. I'll give you a hint. I'd probably put the dollar amounts on the dollar amounts for the meals across your x-axis, and in the y-axis I would have the tip. That's going to be probably how I would do it. And the reason for that is the tip depends on the dollar amount of the meal. Okay? So your independent variable, and they talk about this here, that's the one, your independent variable is the cost of the meal. Your tip depends on the cost of the meal, so your tip is going to be your dependent value. And you can read about this in your math notes box, and I'd really appreciate it if you actually did read about this in your math notes box. Okay? Which quadrants are useful for this graph? Why? Kind of answer which quadrants would be good for this graph and so forth. What are the greatest and smallest values of x and y that must fit on the graph? So after you make your table, you're going to be able to answer those questions. How would you scale your axis to create the most effective graph for Mr. Wallace? So you have to do that all, okay? And then it says, for part E, it says, use your tip graph from part D. So you have to make a really nice tip graph, and I want you to label it tip graph, give it a title and everything like that. To test your estimations from part C. Which representation, the graph or table, helped find the most accurate tip? Which was easiest to use? So you have to explain those two things for that problem. And that's kind of it for Mr. Wallace, I think. I think we're going to go on to the next part is 43. One of these points is not like the others. Plot and connect the points in the table below. Again, I want you to make a neat graph. This graph might be a little bit different, so I want you to think about how this graph is different than the one you used in 42. Okay? Just think about that. So how is this graph different than the one you used in 42? Okay? And then there's one point that does not fit the pattern. You're supposed to identify that in B and correct the point. So correct that point that fits the pattern and then graph that one also. Then you're going to go on to 44. It says copy and complete the table for the rule 1/2 x plus 6. So what you do for that is you take 1/2 times -4 and then you add 6. And 1/2 times -3 and then add 6 and so forth all the way through there. Graph and connect the points from your table on a graph paper. Remember to label the graph with its rule. I want to make sure that you guys do a really neat job on your graphs. I'm not going to be doing graphs. I've kind of cut out some of the graphs, but when you do a graph right now, I need you to try and make sure you do as neat a job as you can. And does the point 10, 12 lie in the graph? How can you tell? So you're going to answer that question too for 44. And that's all your classwork. There's 2 sections of homework for this. I think it's 36 through 40 and then 45 through 49. And you don't have class tomorrow, so this is due on Wednesday because tomorrow you're going to be going up to a science field trip, so you won't be in my class, I found out. So make sure you do the graphs and everything as complete as possible. Try and answer the questions and don't try and rush through it. I'm gone today, but I'll be back Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, so I'll be able to help you with this, but I want to see these graphs for Chapter 3. And you'll have your test back from Chapters 1 and 2 tomorrow also. So you guys have a good day, work hard, and I don't want anybody in the hallway, but you can work with partners in the classroom once you get this done. Thanks.